Hey guys, it's a good time to say Merry Christmas in arrears, and yeah. So this is a very special season, right? And that's why this particular episode of story is a much special one. I think we only get to have this once in a blue moon, and I have with me in the studio today. I know you must have seen what's going on with the excerpt. I call him a legend, and I know it's a lot to hand that status. That's because of the leadership role he's played in the Christian gospel music, particularly the different approach and style that it brings to the table. All right, he's been doing this for over 14 years consistently. All right, with me in the show this evening is Gaze Baba.
Culture.
Good to have you here.
It's an honor.
I mean, there are two people I talk to, and it's like my head is busting. It's you and Dr. Foy. So I get that thing. It's like something is just busting. You know, so with you on this show today, I'm going to start anyhow. You know, usually on stories, we tell people to start their story from the most convenient spot for them. But I want to start from the most convenient spot for me. So I remember. So I started listening to your song quite early. I think I should say that. I think for me, it should be around 2011 or thereabout.
That's close to the beginning.
Yes. So it means that someone like me, I followed you from that time till now. So I'm a fan. I'm a very consistent one. Cool. But something happened one time.
Right.
You know, when you hear Gaze Baba and the kind of songs and, I saw something online when you were getting married, and you shared your testimony, how you and your wife decided that you were not going to touch each other, and
no, let's be specific.
Let's be specific.
Let's be specific.
Okay.
Let's define touch each other.
Okay. Okay. In the sense that there is no sex.
Yes.
Till marriage.
There's no sex till marriage, but that touch each other. But we didn't have sex. We got married.
That was trending when you shared the story.
I remember. I remember one of the big blogs. I mean, it was big. It was a big blog then. It's still a very big blog now. I actually carried the story then, and I think what attracted them was the fact that I was the one who shared it.
Yeah.
On my Twitter back then, I shared it that at the time I was 28.
Yes.
And the exact expression I made was, I've got 28 years of virginity to pour into one woman. That was exactly how
you married as a virgin?
Yeah. I married as a virgin. I married at 20. In fact, I was 28. Yeah. So it was a few months before
I saw that exact
marriage.
Caption.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So when I tweeted it, I mean, that kind of tweet will catch fire.
Yeah.
So I think they saw it and they waited till the wedding happened. So it's not what do you call it? What's the English? I can't seem to get it.
Okay.
But like, it's not ahead of time.
So you tweeted that.
Yeah.
How many months before you got married?
Months. I was actually, interestingly, I was talking about Christian music.
Yes.
And I was talking about how creative we can go with Christian music.
Yes.
So actually, I've actually been consistent with this talk.
Yes.
Now that I think about it. Because I was saying that our music is too predictable, it's too dogmatic, it's too straight-jacketed.
Yeah.
And I was saying that we're going to need artists, Christians, kingdom-minded artists who will step out and make music to engage the city. And I was saying you don't have to be even too obvious. You don't have to preach at people. So I said that I would love for us to make music that will say something like, I can't wait to get married so I can finally have sex.
Yeah.
And I was saying, if you make a song like that, what you have automatically done without preaching is say, I'm not having sex now because I'm not married.
Marriage.
So
that's culture shaping.
Yeah, you flipped it. You actually talked about sex as a good thing. Like, man, I can't wait to have sex. I can't wait to get married so that I can finally have sex. That means you are you are putting sex as a benefit of marriage.
Yeah.
Right?
But many Christians don't see it like that.
No.
They talk about the sex part. How dare you say
that kind of thing. So I was talking about that, and then I said, "Oh, by the way, that's actually my story. That's my life."
So they waited.
So Bella waited
till you
till
got
I
married.
got married.
To
So
ask
when I
you.
got married, immediately, like we got married on a Thursday. They sent me a DM maybe like Monday or Tuesday.
That.
Like, "Hi, if you don't mind, we'd like you to share your story. We saw your tweet months ago. Ba-da-da-da-da-da-da." I'm like, "Oh, cool, sure, we'll share." So we shared our story.
I'm sure there are those who also waited to check if you actually kept your virginity till marriage.
I hope they are inspired.
So you were dragged for that statement? Or
I
not
wouldn't
really,
say,
or it's...
I wouldn't say dragged. I mean, some people made fun of me, of us, but I think most people found it inspiring or encouraging, and a lot of those people that found it inspiring or encouraging didn't comment publicly. So they like send messages, "Thank you so much for sharing." They thought I was alone. Oh, we thought we were alone. All that kind of thing. So it was, I mean, it's not today that we have been going counterculture.
Yeah, there's a question I want to ask you.
Yes.
We're going to get to the actual counterculture. But there's a question I want to ask you. In Matthew 16, Jesus was asking them, "What do you say that I am?" Some said you are Elijah. Some said you are this. Some said you're one of the prophets. I said, "What do people say that I am?" And he said, "What do you say that I am?" What do you see Gaze Baba as?
Me, myself.
Yes.
Cultural architect. And by that, I mean someone who's going to shift culture. I'm going to redefine culture.
Yeah.
On both ends of the spectrum, in the temple and outside the temple. So what
in the temple means within church
community, and also in the mainstream, in the city center, in the city gates. The Bible talks about their children will speak with the elders at the gates. That it talks about the
mainstream, like we going into the world as well commanded.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, my heart beats for that because God has been telling me about that for years. So almost everything I've done for at least 7 years has been with that focal point before my face. So if people check everything that I've done, anything I've said that has maybe stirred the waters, unsettled the waters over time, whether it's ticketing for shows, whether it's
we're going to get to the area of ticketing for shows,
whether it's getting involved in awards, whether it's engaging the world, all that stuff, it's with that in mind. I strongly believe that our influence is small if our influence is only on ourselves as the body of Christ.
What inspires the painting of your hair?
So the origin was actually William Saliba, Arsenal player. That's the honest truth. That's honest truth.
Wait, before you get into that, I remember year 2010, I was pastoring somewhere, so I went to name a child. And then, I asked the father of the child, and that is, what name are we giving to the child? So he said, Messi. I was like, okay, he's a boy. I said Messi. So while ministering, so I said, oh, come on, no, that's what the child is Messi, meaning I know Dua. The man, we say, Messi, you call. Not that Messi, I didn't Messi, the one bubble.
Are you for real?
I'm telling you.
So they actually named the child MESSI.
Yes.
In this Nigeria.
Sharp. I named the child.
Wow.
I named the child.
Yeah,
so
it
talking
was,
about
it
the
was
Arsenal player, yeah.
When Arsenal bought William Saliba from, I can't remember, it was Saint Etienne or something. And I just saw the guy when we bought him. So I love this guy's hair. Wow. He just had this. It wasn't exactly like this. So I've had a journey. My hair has gone through a journey. So he had this. It was curled, And then it was like gold tint was going through black. It was just black and gold. It just
Yeah.
had this really curly and really cool
Yeah.
feel. I was like, I like the hair. So we were approaching our 5th year in marriage, my wife and I.
Wow.
At the times, this was 2019.
My God.
So I told my wife, I was like, what do you think? I like dye my hair. She's like, no, I'm not agreeing. I dropped it.
Really?
Then she wanted us to do a photo shoot. 5th year anniversary photo shoot. I'm not a fan of photo shoots. My wife can do 2 photo shoots per month. Right. So I'm like, we're clocking 5. We have to do a photo shoot. I said, I'm not doing it. She said, babe, please. I just had that brainwave. Like, idea. I said, okay, you know what? I'll do this photo shoot.
But you let me.
But you let me dye my hair. She goes, okay, all right, dye.
Are you serious?
I never turned back since then.
You know why I asked?
Yeah.
The color of your hair, has it been part of the basis for which church people judge your music?
Well, No. I don't think it is a basis for which they judge my music.
Do you feel you have the acceptance that is required in church? Or?
One, I do, but even if I didn't, I would not. That's the honest truth.
You're not moved.
I will not mind. The reason why I can say this is because there was a period when I wasn't. And for maybe up to 2 years, I didn't have any invitations from church.
After dyeing your hair?
No, before that, my hair, this had nothing to do with my hair.
Okay.
And I don't even think it had to do with like church like that. And I'm even going to that a bit.
Please go.
So this was around between late 2016 into like 2018, 2019, right? And my journey has been very God-led. I believe it. And I believe that God made me go through those wilderness years so that I'm not at the mercy of any man, pastor or not. So I'm not.
Yeah, get that.
I have gone through 1, 2+ years without a church invitation. I didn't die. So I know that I can lead a solid life without being invited to church to perform or to minister, like churches like using the word minister, right? So I'm not scared to go through that again. If you understand what I mean.
Get you perfectly.
I'm not, how do I put it? I've been weaned, WEAN,
yes,
of dependence on church invitation. Right. It'll be cool to get it. There are many artists who are having a great time, and it would be nice to have it. But I do not. I also believe that because of my work and because of my assignment and because of what I have to do, I have to be prepared. I have to be unafraid of losing that or of not having that. You understand? So there was a period when that wasn't happening. It was around that time, like I told you off camera, when God then started sending me to secondary schools.
Yeah.
So I started organizing concerts in secondary schools, went to my alma mater, King's College, went to Queen's College, gathered young guys. A good number of these guys are now like big Afro gospel acts now. There's hardly any currently big, maybe Prince, because Prince is in Port Harcourt. But any big Afro gospel act from Lagos has gone to a secondary school with me.
Really?
Yes. Or with Light Out. Let's be humble about it. Wow. Yeah, so it was that period. And it wasn't like I was balling. At that period, my wife and I and my family was staying in Redeem Camp. So we lived in Redeem Camp for a year.
What? What year was this?
2017. From August 2017 till July, August 2018.
Really?
We lived in Redeem Camp. Estate 9 to be precise. Yeah. We lived in camp. My son was schooling in Oregon, in Lagos. Wow. So I would drive him from camp to Oregon 3 times a week. I had an arrangement with the school that he won't come to school Tuesday and Wednesday. So I will take him to school. I'll go to a friend's house in Okwebi. I'll wait in the house throughout school hours. I'll drive back to the school, pick him, drive back on the express back to Redeem Camp, just so that he doesn't lose that period. It's not like I knew it was going to be a year. It could be a month, it could be 3 months. I didn't know, but we had to be in camp that period. But I won't trade that year for anything.
Wow.
Because a lot was birthed in me around that time.
Around that period. Now let me ask. You have boldly, you've stood for many things, body of Christ, some of which are not conventional.
Most of which
are not conventional. And have brought some level of attacks on your person and your ministry. Now, I speak as one that is very passionate about the Afro gospel world in Nigeria, which I understand that many people don't seem to consider it as a temple thing. And I also don't think it's a temple thing. It's beyond temple. It's like our export to the world to get to the epicenter of where those things are. We export it there and really
that phrase you made.
Yeah.
Export to the world.
Yes.
I'll explain what God told me.
Really?
Finished the
What
question.
do you see as the major influence to the Afro gospel, I use what genre in Nigeria, and what are your fears? And I need to ask about your fears because you are a frontliner.
What do I see as the hindrances?
Yes.
I think the hindrance will be fear. Fear on the part of the practitioners. A practitioner sounds funny, but the players,
yes,
the creatives.
Yeah, the creatives.
Yeah, the creatives of what people will say, of if it's accepted and all of that. There's going to be more daring things that will happen. I mean, I mentioned some. There's going to be more daring things that will happen. And even me, God has had to prepare my heart for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Ahead of steps that I'll have to take, moves that I'll have to make, and, actions that I'll have to embark on.
Yeah.
And the most important word right now for this community is what God told Joshua. Only be bold and courageous.
Yeah.
Only be bold and courageous. Only be bold and courageous. I said it sometime when I was explaining how I wrote Elijah Level. I said that God did not tell Moses to be bold and courageous because Moses did not need it.
Yeah. True.
Moses was going to a country where he was prince. He grew as prince there. The guy that was Pharaoh at the time was his guy. They grew up together. He didn't need that.
Yeah.
Joshua was going into a new territory.
Yes.
Had to take over a city and had to come after a great man, a great prophet.
Like Moses.
Tough. So God had to tell him to be bold and courageous. Many of us in this space, it's easy for us to think small of ourselves in comparison to like fathers and those who have come before.
Yes.
And the fivefold, But God has, over time, fortified my heart, giving me assurances that makes me know that I'm not any less important to his agenda than anybody in the fivefold. So I do not see any apostle, any prophet, any evangelist, any pastor, any teacher as more important to God's agenda on the earth in this season than myself.
My God.
I understand the importance of this work.
Yeah.
I understand the eternal significance of this work.
Yeah.
And I even understand it more now with the understanding that God gave me about what Afro gospel really is.
Yeah.
And I might touch on that a bit because I was saying when you talked about export,
Yeah.
So when we just finished, but this year I had my first like international tour, and I was in the UK for 6 weeks. And on I think it was the third week, God started to school me about Afro gospel and what Afro gospel was. It started to highlight John Knox to me and the work of John Knox in the 16th century, 17th century, that period, and what he represented in culture, not just in faith, not just in the temple. And God told me that what the West did for Africa, bringing the gospel here, many centuries ago, which brought the Christian faith to the African continent in a way. Now we can argue whether it had political undertone, whether it had colonial undertone.
Yeah.
We can have those arguments.
Yeah.
Point is, they brought the Christian faith to Africa.
Yeah.
And they brought some light to Africa.
True.
Right?
Great light.
Now, we have interacted with Christ in a religious sense over the years.
Yes.
The West is losing the faith
fast
to a great deal. And God told me that, or I have the understanding that He's raising creatives.
Yeah.
Now, it's like the flip of what happened centuries ago. He's raising creatives who are gonna take the gospel, the message, and the culture of His kingdom, and they're gonna take it to the West.
Are they aware?
We're getting them away.
Is there a system for that?
We started that this year.
You started
somewhat, and I can touch on that as well. But so you see that movement, that flip movement of the gospel, the message, and the culture of God's kingdom through art, through creativity, to the world. That's Afro gospel.
Yeah.
That's the gospel coming out of Africa to the world. So, and it is not. So
it's not just about Afro
music.
gospel in the
it's
sense
not in the sense of genre.
It's not in the sense of Afrobeat.
No, it's not in Afro gospel. Based on the understanding I have now, Afro gospel is not an alternative to Afrobeat.
Please say that again. I want them to hear that.
Afro gospel is not an alternative to Afrobeat.
What is Afro gospel?
Afro gospel is a movement of the gospel, the message, and the culture of God's kingdom through creativity and art from African creatives in different forms: film, theater, modeling, fashion, music, all forms of creative expression, taking the gospel message and culture of God's kingdom to the world.
This is so powerful.
That's Afro gospel.
I want to call your attention to a post I saw online. Someone posted and saw a flyer containing some music ministers, worship music ministers, and said something like, you guys know who you invite when you want to touch God. And you know who you invite when you want entertainment. You know who you want to invite when you want entertainment. Now, this is my question. Can people touch God with Afro gospel? In the sense of that.
Music and other forms of art are vehicles.
Yes.
What the church, or what many of our leaders call entertainment and demonize or castigate or belittle as entertainment is a vehicle.
Yeah.
There is a reason you see certain movies and you tell your congregation not to watch it. Because you know that's a potter.
Yeah.
But that's entertainment.
Yeah.
So is it that our power is so weak that it cannot be conveyed the same way what we are telling people to not watch can be conveyed through? So you agree that the power of the devil or the schemes of the devil
Is more potent
is
to influence
more
you.
potent to influence through entertainment, but
Yeah.
God's power cannot
Influence.
cannot influence through entertainment. That's what we're saying.
Hmm.
So no, you cannot tell me that it is only through a certain tempo of music, a certain style of music that God's power can move.
Yeah.
If you have not seen God's power move through a particular sound, it is because the persons have not accessed power on that level yet. That's one. Two, I also have to point out that the fact that people are crying and having goosebumps and falling does not mean that power failed. Does not mean that power moved. Does not mean that God moved. Does not mean that God blinked in that meeting. God might not even have blinked. It's just chords. It's particular chord progression. It's particular parts.
You are shouting.
Right. So
people fell when under Michael Jackson's.
They fainted, man.
I wanted to say
they even fainted. They even fainted.
Yes, people passed out.
So if we are judging based on that, I talked about it now in one of my clips. I saw a clip where someone was discrediting Bidemi for his record or something like that, and I addressed it, and I'm like, see, I'm not holding brief for anybody. I'm just saying that the God that spoke through a donkey, man, you're telling me that God cannot reach people through a gospel artist that sings, I know you're waiting there to talk. Mm-hmm. Right? So your God is limited to a particular style. Right? The same style that 200 years ago the church was also criticizing as the music of the clubs. People don't even understand history. Do you realize that hymns were criticized by the same body of Christ hundreds of years ago as the music of the clubs?
Same hymns.
Hymns didn't start in church. That sound did not start in church. Wow. It started outside. It's like blues.
Wow.
The song was in fact, what is common now as worship that is called CCM is soft rock. It's soft rock.
If we had sang that in 14 something by 14 years.
So it's just because something is associated in our mind to something at the moment. People should read up on the man that's indigenized temple music that okay, let's go there.
That made it like an indigenous sound?
In early 1900s.
Yes.
The music of the church was completely Western. In Nigeria. From 1900s to 1910s to 1920s, the music of the church was completely Western. And so it was not connecting with the people on the streets. They could not use the music of the church to evangelize to everyday people, everyday Nigerians. A man called J.J. Ransom Kuti.
Now we're entering it.
A man called J.J. Ransom Kuti, Josiah Jesse Ransom Kuti.
Yes.
Who used to be a mainstream musician, used to play jazz, used to play piano.
Mainstream guy. Away from the temple.
Away from the temple. Then he got into the Anglican system, started being raised to become a reverend, but he's always been involved in music because his father, who is actually the first Kuti, his father, who was a traditionalist, actually used to sing in groves.
What?
In ancestral groves.
Yeah.
Actually. Right? So he used to carry just JJ as a child. So he knew the music of the shrine. When he became a reverend and he started evangelizing, he believed that music could do more than it was doing. And he saw that the music of the church was only connecting with the aristocrats and wasn't connecting on the level with everyday people. So what did he do? He started to, I hope this is the right word, indigenize. So indigenous. He started to indigenize those hymns. So the same way Samuel Ajayi Crowther converted
The English Bible
to Yoruba so that people can relate. So you can speak to a people, speak the gospel to a people. It was J.J. Ransom Kuti that introduced the music of the church to the people on the land. In fact, some of those songs were rhythms and melodies that he had learned as a child in the groves. He flipped it and used it to explain the gospel because they were rhythms that the people were familiar with.
He recorded the first song in
He's
Nigeria.
the first man in the history of Nigeria to record an album. He recorded it in 1922.
And that's the grandfather of
That's Fela's grandfather.
Fela Anikulapo Kuti.
So, you see, Paul said, I will be all things to all men, so that by all means I will win some. For the sake of that some, he was willing to be all things
to all
men. He knew he would not win all. He knew he would win some. But for the sake of that some, I will be all things to all men. We don't understand our mandate. That's why we are satisfied with the small that is inside the temple. Jesus said, the harvest is plentiful. The laborers are few. Why? But there are many people inside temple. But they are so dogmatic that they cannot labor.
You can't get in.
They can't get in. We claim to be light, we are avoiding darkness. We claim to be salt, you don't want to enter the soup. You don't want to enter the heat. You don't want to enter the soup because of the heat. The pot is hot because food is being cooked. If you are going to influence the soup, you will experience the heat. If you are not ready to experience the heat, then you are just going to be salt in jar. You'll be pointless. So that's what we've become. We are just salt in jar, and we are over-salting each other and fighting and competing between denominations. There are people out there, man. There's a drug epidemic going on in our country.
Seriously.
Who is speaking to it? Teenagers are getting destroyed in droves. We're doing conferences. Who is coming to conferences? Not Christians.
Yeah.
Then you invite an artist. The artist should not charge because you say the artist should be preaching gospel. Is it gospel you are preaching at a conference? It's not Christian you are talking to. It's not ourselves we are talking to in the conference.
Yeah.
No, now let's more talk.
True.
It's not Christians gathering at all the conferences we are doing up and
For
down.
Christians.
Not the Christians they gather for the conference. And with all the Christians, the country is still not changed. So in actual fact, our doctrine is actually not even transforming the land.
We are not entering. We are not going into the world as commanded. You know, I was sharing something with you. And you see, these are, I feel these are conversations that we need to have. If there's anything anyone who is going to function in this generation needs to have, it is the audacity to do what God has called you to do. To do, you know, what without trying to get some sense of validation, because it becomes more dangerous if the fellow you want to validate you is not updated in knowledge. It means you have to reduce the weight, the gravity, the promptness of what God is saying to somebody catching up.
In fact, if what God is asking you to do is vanguard in nature,
yes,
chances are very slim that you'll get any validation.
You will not get.
Because any authority, anybody that is already an authority, means that the person became an authority on the old.
Yeah.
Anybody that is already an authority means the person became an authority on the old.
Yeah.
Now, if God is calling you to start the new, that sounds like, if God is calling you to start the new, right? Any authority that will validate you will have to be humble enough
to understand what God is doing.
To understand and see it in the spirit. And it does not come easy to be an authority and be humble at the same time.
It's not common.
It's not common.
It's not common.
So if you find one or two people, hold them dear, right? But still do not, run things. I have people I run things by.
Yeah.
I have a few people that I still run things by.
Yeah.
I still carried myself with my wife to go and see a father of faith like 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm.
And it was the first time I was meeting him. But I only heard about him this year.
Wow.
But I saw him and I said, this man, I have to meet this man. My spirit just knew.
Mm.
And so after some months, I got the audience and we went to meet him.
Mm.
By the time he was praying, it was clear that the man knew me by the spirit.
Mm.
Because the things he prayed, I didn't tell him anything like that, but he prayed those words.
Mm.
Right? So you have those that you submit to. You're not a vagabond. You're not a bastard.
No. You're not floating.
You're not floating. You're not homeless. You're not.
Yeah.
I have my local assembly.
Yeah.
I have the pastor that is my pastor.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not someone that is responding in church. I don't even have church hurt.
Mm.
Interestingly.
Mm.
I was saying it at the gathering yesterday. I don't have church hurt.
Yeah.
I have a passion for the kingdom.
Mm.
And I believe that the kingdom and the values of the kingdom, the culture, the message of the kingdom can penetrate the earth, can infiltrate, penetrate, and dominate the earth. I strongly believe it.
How far is too far for you?
How far is too far? The Spirit will let you know where you don't go, what you don't say, what you don't do. For instance, and too far for me does not necessarily have to be too far for you.
True.
Which is another thing.
Yeah.
And then I heard you say something about you only know your calling. It's your calling you know. You don't know somebody else's.
People should understand that you can only know your own calling. You can't know my own because you are not hearing God from me.
You are not the caller.
So there should be no assumption that a man is not doing his ministry because he's not doing what you want to know him for.
Right.
Or what resonates with you. So you brought this out. In 2025, people should focus on their calling while let someone else focus on his calling.
So I was going to give this example. I believe that, let me start from, I don't take alcohol.
Mm.
But I know alcohol is not a sin.
Mm.
But I don't take alcohol. Because by spiritual discernment from my own assignment, I picked it like 2 years ago that I shouldn't take alcohol. Right? But I'm in gatherings where people take alcohol.
Yeah.
And I see absolutely nothing wrong with what they are doing. Because they don't have my assignment. They don't require my consecration.
Yeah.
I cannot place the demands of my consecration on another man.
Yeah.
Because we don't have the same assignment.
Yeah.
Right? I see alcohol as a weight. Says, saying now that you have a cloud of witnesses.
Yes.
Let us run the race that is set before us.
Yes.
Let us lay aside every sin and weight. So it's not the only sin.
Yeah.
We lay aside weight too.
True.
And each person go know wetin be weight for am.
Yeah.
What reduces your effectiveness in your race. I see alcohol as weight. Heck, I see weed as weight. Right? So even though I might find it offensive to me personally, so I might not want to be in a gathering where they're smoking weed. If I absolutely have to be there in a particular moment, I will be there for the people who are there.
If you have to minister in a place where they are smoking weed, you will have to be there for the sake of the people.
I've been there before. I've been there years ago. So I feel like there's and this one is spiritual, people don't understand. I feel like there's a similarity. I see some parallels between Moses' journey and my journey. Because when I started my career professionally in 2010, I was signed to Sanctified Records, Emmanuel Malaka, Manny X. He used to be the business manager at Mo Hits Records. That's Jazzy, The Band, Dr. Seed, The Prince, all of them. So he left there and started Sanctified Records. When he signed me, I've sang in clubs. They are smoking, they are weeding, they are womanizing. I've sang in the club.
Mm.
And when I sang, they
What kind of
paused.
song did you sing?
My song now. I sang Follow Follow. I sang wọ́n sọ mí bolúwágà mo ti dúró dáadáa mo dẹ̀ ti bínú mo fẹ́ kọ Yorùbá ní rágà Ankara mo fi ń dára èmi ò rán Prada tí n bá dẹ̀ gbé sọ́run àwé ò lè ṣe mí náírà mo dẹ̀ ti ń fàdà bàbá tó ń dára. Hey, there's this line that talks about mi ò mú pàrágà ẹ̀mí mímọ́ ló ń ṣiṣẹ́ mi ò ní ìdí lágà gẹ́rà rẹ̀ lára òun pè é ní tattoo òun jalè òun pè é ní yahoo. So I was addressing ills in the society.
Yeah.
And I stayed in the club, I sang it. While I sang it, there were ladies in front that paused. They held their smoke like this till I finished singing. They could not smoke. They held it. Right? Now...
Do you get testimonies from such places?
Oh, yeah. When I sang Follow Follow, I at least there were 2 or 3 stories that came back to me about folks who were in cybercrime that stopped when they heard the song.
Wow.
However, I believe that what God will have me do is actually even much deeper than that. So after like 4 or 5 years, He pulled me away from that, which is why I said there's some similarity, some parallel that I see with Moses.
Yeah.
He pulled me out from all of that, pulled me from all that, pulled me into the wilderness. That's when around the time we had to go to camp, even church, no call again. After some years, people be asking, did you stop singing? I said, it's not that I stopped singing. I was just singing in secondary school up and I was just singing from secondary school to secondary school.
Those years were years of silence.
Yeah, there were years of silence.
You had to bounce back.
So now, from there, I then started, I won't say building, but contributing to the building of what we know today as Afro Gospel, the Afro Gospel movement, the Afro Gospel community, right? But at this point now, God is sending me back to the same world that He pulled me from in the earlier years of my career. So I see it like Moses, when he was trying to, he knew there was that yearning in him to deliver the people. He knew that there's a call, right? But he was trying to do it with his understanding. Then there was that pulling away into the wilderness for many years. Then after a while, God then says, I'm sending you back there to do what I want you to do. But by the time God is sending him, He doesn't want to go.
If they invite you to sing in a club.
Now,
yes,
I'll gladly jump at it, man.
Kabalina.
I'll jump at it.
But that's where the people that need the message.
You see, that's actually where I am right now. And I was sharing with you earlier. For weeks now, God has been prepping my heart for what I'm going to have to be doing going forward.
Someone might be listening to this and say, how will he say that if they invite him to the club, he's going to go there? What kind of gospel ministers are we having now? That's religious spirit right there. You go into the world. If you are the salt of the earth, you have to touch the areas you are to preserve. Salt can't function by proxy. You have to apply it.
You cannot influence what's not aware of you.
Jesus.
You cannot influence
what is not aware of you.
Oblivious of you.
Of your existence.
So we think we are influencing, but what we've created echo chambers. We've created echo chambers.
Echo. Same thing.
It's just bouncing back and bouncing. We're shuffling members. So for a church to increase membership, a church reduces membership. Come on.
For a church to increase membership,
another church reduces membership.
And that's just like, in fact, the entire, let me use this word, because I want to say about what you said now. The biggest sitting church auditorium in Nigeria sits 100,000. We are looking at a nation of about 250 million people. What fraction of that nation is that? That's 0.00.
It takes some plenty calculation to
and
find out.
Now, this is not my way of casting aspersion on the church, but I'm saying that we quickly we are quick to say we are succeeding, and including myself, when there's still more to be done. If we compare what we are getting in comparison what can be done or what should be done, we will know that we are trying to cage God. We are not touching the depth. At one point in my life, I was selling food by the roadside. In Ife. I was running a fast food joint, where I would sell noodles, sell egg, blend with suya, blend with different things. I got more result
there
in terms of soul
you were
winning
interacting with
there
people on the streets
than when I pastored in that same city. It was in that same joint where I was selling noodles that the boys who were cult guys they just said they don't know why. They just want to come to where I am, just sit down and gist. A guy came one day, and it's been coming for like 2 days. And one of those nights, I was whisking egg for someone, and I saw he was just looking at me. So I said, "Hey, what's up?" Then he was crying. Then he said to me, "Do you know that I just wiped out an entire family before running down to Ife?" He was confessing the things. No preaching. He just felt compelled to confess.
Wow.
I led him to Christ, got him born again. The rest is history. When I look at the caliber of people that I was able to touch with that Indomie joint, that food joint there, compared to the recycling we do in church, it is amazing how we get to the point where if it is not temple, it is not God.
I remember when we had culture shift in Ibadan.
Oh, thank you for culture shift.
Thank God. And I was explaining from, I think, Ephesians 4.
Yeah.
Ephesians 4:11.
Yes.
He gave some to be apostles,
yes.
some prophets, some evangelists, some pastors, some teachers, for the equipping of the saints,
yes.
for the work of the ministry,
yes.
the edification of the body of Christ.
Yes.
And I was explaining that the fivefold equips the saints.
Yeah.
So that the saints can do the work of ministry.
Yeah. Yeah.
What we have done is believe that the fivefold is doing the work of ministry.
True.
Whereas the fivefold are supposed to be like coaches
to equip the saints.
That equip the saints so that the saints can do the work of ministry. The saints are the one engaging the world.
Yeah.
In various fields.
Yeah.
So in the saints, you have doctors, you have lawyers, you have farmers, you have this, you have that. You have so many people inside the pews.
Yes.
So when the fivefold equips the saints can let their light so shine before men.
Yes.
In the world.
They are the ones in the world.
They are the ones in the world.
Yeah.
They are the ones who are interfacing with the world.
Yeah.
But because we have interpreted it as now fivefold they preach, now fivefold they do ministry. You say, are you in ministry?
My God.
Are you in ministry? Oh, yeah. I'm going into ministry. God has called me to ministry. I don't understand. We are all in ministry. Even if you're a business person, you're in ministry, man. And your business place is your pulpit. The same way the boat was pulpit for Peter.
Yeah.
So now, because we've relegated the pews, we now have powerless pews. Powerless pews who cannot effect any change in society.
My God.
So, as church, they full, corruption, they increase for the country.
Yeah.
The maths is not mathing.
It's not.
We are increasing in number. Corruption is increasing. How? What is wrong with our doctrine? What is wrong with our faith?
Some believers even believe that the church has nothing to do in terms of influencing societal pillars.
Then, if that's the case, immediately we give our lives to Christ, we shall have just gone to heaven.
It is absurd for people to believe that. Do you believe there's anything called mountain of influence?
Yeah. And you don't even need to, I don't even think you need to rise to the top of the mountain to start influencing.
No, you don't.
Like, wherever you are, Right. So that we don't think
From
like
there.
you have to become this huge person
before you do something.
before you can influence. Because, okay, let's say next year, and by next year I mean 2025. I've seen so many 20-something. I don't even know which 20. 2025.
Yeah.
Something huge happens.
Yes.
Right? And okay, the impact that I'm making now becomes visible to many.
Yeah.
People will define that is that time that people think I'm making impact. Bro, babe, guy, daddy, mommy, I've been making impact for years.
Yeah.
Whether you see it or not.
Yeah.
We reached over 30,000 teenage and preteen students.
My God.
For God. We've done
God.
22 editions of Light Out.
Wow.
Organized 22 concerts in secondary schools since 2017.
Wow.
Won some to Christ. Gotten some to commit to the same covenant of purity that I committed to not have sex like got married.
My God.
Which is in line with the culture, the values. And, I said Afro gospel is African creatives taking the gospel, the message, and the culture of God's kingdom to the West is tripartite.
My God.
You cannot carry the gospel and not carry the values of the kingdom.
Yeah.
The values have to be consistent with the gospel.
With the gospel.
That's what makes up the culture. Culture is a way of thinking. I believe that Christ is an ideology. I see Christ as an ideology. That's what I want to introduce to Africa. Christ, not in terms of religion. Christ as an ideology. Christ as a way of thinking. Christ as a way of being. So it's not something you do when you go to church, when you go to your entire life. 360 degrees. You live Christ. That's what it means when it says it's no longer I that lives, but Christ that lives through me. It's an ideology, is an intoxication. Is an indoctrination. Your entire thinking. You don't have the mind of Christ. That means I'm not thinking as Akiande.
No.
I begin to think as Christ.
As Christ. He invades you.
Is that level of experience, that level of being, of executing, of if we get to that point, you'll see that this continent will change. There's too much darkness in Africa. And Christ is the light that will liberate this continent. It's Christ.
You're saying what you're saying with so much burden in your heart.
God put it there, man.
What is it that you will see that will give you the satisfaction that Afro gospel is doing what it should do?
Brilliant. Brilliant. When there's Giz Baba, there's Limo Blaze, there's Ivy Quick, there's Great Man Tuckett, there's An Endless Ocean. And if I continue calling those names, I probably will not call up to 20. Maybe I'll call 10. Angelo, Obaringi, Prince Emmanuel. Now, these guys, I want to see another 20, 25, 30. A model. A writer. A poet. A painter. A filmmaker. An actor. An actress. Now these guys, as a Joel 2 army, are premiering a movie in a theater in Berlin. And revival breaks out in that theater. They're having a festival in Ouagadougou, in Côte d'Ivoire. It's not a gospel festival, it's a festival.
Yeah.
And you have the weed smoking guy invited to perform.
Yeah.
Then you have Prince Emmanuel invited to perform. And Prince performs and revival breaks out in the audience. As that one is happening, IB Quake is in Tokyo at a UN gathering.
Yeah.
World leaders are seated.
Yeah.
As she does a spoken word piece, revival breaks out in that room.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be in temple. What God told me is He's not trying to fill up the cathedrals anymore. See those cathedrals that are saying are empty in Scotland, in France, in England, in all the cathedrals that are getting empty. God isn't trying to fill them again. The revival that the church has been praying for, the church that is praying for revival does not know the revival that is coming.
Yeah. You can pray for it and not recognize it and fight it.
You think it's Azusa. Or they think it's Elisha. That's not revival. That's not revival that has come. So you can pray for it and not recognize it.
And fight it.
You can pray for Peter's release, and when they tell you that Peter's at the gate, you tell the person that you are mad. The person will insist, you say, okay, it's his angel. All right? We're going to have it break out on festival grounds, cinema halls, arts festivals, artsy gatherings, mainstream spaces, city centers, creative-led. The future is creative, and that future is now. The future is not 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, 2 years to come. Say not that it's 4 months until harvest. Lift up your eyes. My Yoruba just kicked in. Lift up your eyes, not your eyes. Lift up your eyes. The fields are white with harvest.
Yeah.
Pray the God of the harvest
That
that He will send laborers. So that's because that's the picture that God has painted for me. When I see that, I'll have satisfaction. If all that I see is Afro gospel night in church, nah, that's some success. We are getting the validation of temple of a certain people in temple.
Certain people.
So
actually.
What we have gotten is a right hand of fellowship, but we must not stay where that hand is. That hand that is giving us fellowship, that hand that is giving us fellowship, that hand is inside the temple. So even though we have come to Jerusalem to collect the right hand of fellowship, collect the right hand, then go back out and go do your work.
Yeah.
We will make a mistake, a grave mistake, if we stay where this hand is and begin to do religious camaraderie inside the temple.
Wow. Let me ask you one more question. What you have described, do you think it will happen?
I believe it will. I believe it is God's will. I know that the fact that something is God's will doesn't mean it will happen.
Yeah.
So I believe it will, and I will play my part as much as God gives me strength, as God gives me grace. And I hope that as many people as this message resonates with, who can be like Aaron and Hur, can reach out to the movement and play their parts. You know, I was telling you about the retreat we had for creatives last month. At that retreat, we had a 3-day fasting retreat for creatives. It was called Foxes on Fire. We had over 130 creatives come for 3 days. Fast throughout the 3 days.
Water. Just water.
Just water. We all woke up at 3 a.m., prayed individually till 5, then gathered for general devotion from 5 till 6. 6, go back to your rooms, clean up. At 8, we come and have morning session till 12. Afternoon, we have a break. We gather at 6 p.m. And we do that. We are in evening session till 11. We go to bed. We are up at 3 again. Pray individually, seek God. Creatives. These are creatives.
My God.
They were TikTok content creators.
My God.
They were filmmakers. They were 4 models
My
in
God.
camp. 4 models. One of the models came to me, said she hasn't been in church in 4 years. I said, that's why you are here. She's seeking God again. I was going to call that retreat a retreat for Christian creatives. God told me to remove Christian. Just put retreat for creatives. So in fact, it will pull in people that when they come there, transformation will happen. They will begin their journey in God. They'll now realize that their art is actually a weapon of war. Art is a weapon of war. And people like Fela understood it more than the church has ever understood it.
True.
Art is a weapon of war. It's a vehicle for agendas.
True.
It's not Hollywood that funds Hollywood. It's agendas that fund Hollywood.
True. Very correct.
It is us who do not understand the power of entertainment. It is sickening how church leadership demonizes and castigates and belittles entertainment. You don't understand the power of what you are belittling. You think the devil is a fool that he camps around entertainment? You think the person that is older than your forefather does not know what he's doing, that he will camp around entertainment?
And we now despise it.
What's the wisdom? What is this? The first person to lift up is God. He told Moses, hang this snake around the rod, lift it up. As many as look to it, they will be saved. It's the power of modeling.
Yeah.
Lift up. So you cook models, you equip models, you elevate them.
Yeah.
The people look to the model, they follow that example.
Yeah.
So I believe that with God's help and God's grace, it says that He's the one that works in us to will and to draw His good pleasure.
Yeah.
So as He enables us, as He equips us, I'm firm in faith that we will see this happen.
Amen.
By God's grace.
Amen. I mean, you've said so many things in this episode that if anyone who is not taking time to think, to assimilate, there's a way the religious spirit can be easily triggered and just want to, without, proper, what should we expect from you in 2025?
All I know is that I'm leaving the familiar. I'm leaving the familiar. I'm being called out of the familiar into new things, and in every way. I don't need to keep beard like this before.
Yeah, wondering.
So I'm switching this up a bit.
It's getting bigger. It's going to get more full.
I mean,
your wife agrees?
My wife wants it to go grey.
Wants to go on?
My wife wants it to go grey. She likes grey hair.
Okay,
so she wants some grey. So as long as there's some grey, she's
it's
fine.
Getting grey already.
So in terms of look, there's that, but the look is just small. Anybody that was at my London show, there was a moment that a declaration was made.
My God.
That's the reason why that show held in London.
Wow.
It had to hold at the center of time. Greenwich Meridian time.
Okay.
It's after that I started getting this prophetic insight. Because for up to like 2-3 years, I just had this feeling that I had to go when I start go to the nations, I have to go to the UK first. My mentor, one of my mentors, PK.
PK.
He's been telling me like, "Gaze, come to Yankee. You have to come to Yankee. Yankee's made for you." And I know, but deep down, I just, you have to go to UK first. You have to go to UK first. And it was a battle. It was spiritually intense. So, I mean, it's not a declaration that I will say anywhere again. The reason for it has been declared, and we're going to be saying that, the manifestation of that much more from 2025. All that I can say is that my throne is in culture, it's not in the temple. That's as much as I can say. My throne is in culture, not in the temple. So if I do not go into the culture, I'm wasting God's grace on my life.
I mean, you're a frontliner. I know you prepare your mind for the smoke that comes with the unfamiliar. I mean, I just must confess that this is one of the most anointed conversations I've had. It's so much surge of God's presence talking with you. And that's one thing I think people don't understand. I was ministering recently at Bidemi Olauba's meeting, and it was not my time to go down. I was seated in the waiting room. For some reasons, he raised the sound. And there is this awe of God that filled everywhere. I know emotions and I know the presence. And, it is amazing how ridiculous it sounds for me to see that someone said, if you want to touch God, that's not a man to bring. It shows how we have boxed God in a box, and God is too big. He sits in the heavens and make the earth his footstool. Right. It takes foolishness to put him in a carton, And I want to just thank you for being unboxed, for being who you are and what you are. It is not easy being gays. You've said some things in this conversation. I just you put me in trouble.
Baba, always put Baba after gays.
Gays, Baba. So I mean, it's not easy doing what you're doing. And I feel, and that's one thing that I really appreciate about you. It is the weight of purpose, the weight of leadership with which you do what you do. And, I just want to thank you. And I want to really encourage everyone watching this that there's something you might be missing out on, and that's the Black Flame podcast with Gaze Baba. It's something you really want to see. So, right on the link on the screen right now, you see it displaying for you to follow through, subscribe on Gaze Baba YouTube. You really want to follow everything, and that's what I want you to understand. Now, these things are happening right under your nose. You've got to see it. If you are not following Gaze Baba on Instagram, you see you are missing something so big. God is using him in a very dramatic way. Is a leader, all right, to many of the voices that God is raising now. Is a model, all right, that God has raised, and we recognize that, and our ministry recognize that, and we recognize who and what you are, and I'm saying this as an individual. I recognize your role in God's agenda, and you can be sure that there are people praying for you. All right, and thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Stories. And it's so brilliant. I mean, we've read many things today that I just have to go back and meditate again, the things you have said. And once again, thank you. And I look forward to having you again in 2025.
I look forward to that.
Then with you and your wife, and we can get into some more conversation. And I want to thank everyone for connecting with us on this episode of Stories. You want us to know in the comment section where you're watching from, and then at least one thing that stood out for you in this episode of Stories. And just drop the comment. This is, we don't get to have this all the time, right? And so you want to drop this in the comment section. Let's take this as a Christmas bonus. All right? It's not easy to have Gaze Baba in the studio all the time. God bless you so much. And I also told you, don't forget to subscribe. The media will put it on the screen. All right? Femi Lazarus Plus. Now, you will get the details about that much later. But hey, guys, we are getting into something much more serious, and that's why we have the plus. Something we cannot describe yet. What you want to do is to make sure that you are subscribed on that YouTube channel, waiting for what is coming. By the time we get into 2025, we hit the ground running. What is coming will get you sitting at the edge of your seat saying, ha, ha, ha. If you want to get set for that, I look forward to seeing you again. All right. God bless you. Have a great time. Bye-bye.